So there's a band called the Fjords. I'm not familiar with them. Maybe you are, Ian. You're
Yeah.
in the music scene. Are you familiar with them?
To a degree.
They did this music video called All In. Very good song. Very sort of like hypnotic quality to it.
I do actually like it. It's not necessarily totally my thing, but it is a good track.
It's very well produced.
Yes.
And they put out a very, very, very well produced music video.
Yes.
That really has, as far as I can tell, nothing really to do with the song. I have to re-listen to it a little bit.
That was something that I was thinking about as we went into this. Is I watched the video today, and I was so taken in by the video and my thoughts on the video that I was not listening to the lyrics to see if they matched up to what I was seeing.
So in the video, you have a child. I want to say he's about 10 to 12 years old. Starts off in his room. He has toys. It looks like it's almost like 80s. There's Gizmo.
Stickers all over his bedroom
There's
door wall.
the miniature Star Wars micro figures from the early 80s, and he has toy trains, which no one has toy trains anymore. But it looks like it's the 80s, late 80s, whatever. So he's about a 12-year-old kid. He gets a backpack, gets an NES, sets out to the woods. And in the woods, you come across, I guess, older teenagers.
We should mention that he's packing it up with Nintendo games that say things like Knives, Rocket, etc. They just look like generic Nintendo games.
Well, I think at the start you don't really see them all close up though. The cartridges.
You definitely see Knives.
You see Knives.
I was waiting for Knives.
Oh, you're waiting.
I was like, where does Knives?
So he customizes this into a backpack, NES on his back. He goes out to like this clearing where I guess all the kids. You knew about when you were a teenager, kids would hang out in the woods. There's cars. They're drinking. They're probably like 18-year-old kids. And then there's like for some reason there's like a food stand, hot dog food stand randomly. So he walks in, he gets confronted by one of these kids who's laughing at, like, why do you have an NES on your back? And so he codes in the Konami code into his backpack with a shotgun cart. Says shotgun on the gamepad, puts it in he has a zapper. Kid gets into his face. This 10-year-old responds by putting a zapper in his face, and then somehow puts a bullet in his head. Graphically, with the NES zapper. And from there, the kid goes on a killing spree.
Yep.
Just shooting people willy-nilly. Like, this is well produced. This is like movie quality stuff.
And he keeps swapping out the cartridges. He goes from shotgun to pistol to rocket launcher to fireball. There's a scene where he gets pinned near the end, and that's where the Knives cart comes out. He reaches for it.
That was Kung Fu or martial arts or something.
It says Knives. And
did it?
Yeah, and he shoves it in his chest. And holy shit, it's graphic. And, I mean, you can have 1,000 takes on it. I mean, you could just look at it as this was an idea they thought of, but it's every young kid, dork, geek, nerd, bully story, fantasy relived in their head, put on, I think, film. It's weird to me because we've discussed video games and violence before. And neither of us believe that video games cause violence, but it was interesting to see a video, and I don't necessarily think the Fjords think that video games cause violence, but it's interesting to see a literal connection to video games violence. I mean, these games are the reason why he can do what he does. Well,
this is why I'm looking at it. And this is sort of like my Christine story last week. I saw this as was his internal escape.
Yes.
This was his escape to get over the bullying. However, this goes a step further because he's killing indiscriminately in this video. So this is almost a Columbine sort of connection here, which I'm not sure what the Fjords' background is about, what their either political stances or stance on violence. I don't know, but they took it a step further. This isn't anti-bullying. This is a kid going on a rampage, so it's interesting they took that approach and went one step beyond there. But so yeah, you're right, maybe it could be this is video games causing violence, but this kid has some problems.
No, like I said, I don't think that's what they're saying. I just thought it was an interesting link, how you literally saw a video game creating violence.
I thought the reason why I thought he put a kung fu was because he does a kick to the guy after he does that, so I thought it was a kung fu. Right, it does say Knives.
Yeah, he kicks the knife
knife further through him.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. One of my first thoughts after watching it was interesting enough. I mean, at least it made me think was, what's this kid's background story? Why is he doing it? What is this? Is this all in his head? Is this what he's actually doing? Do we know? Do we care? Did the Fjords just want to make a fucking interesting video and they didn't think about it? But it definitely got me thinking, and it was It's an interesting use of video games, at least in the topic of escapism, or as using video games to identify someone as a nerd who has been picked on by someone, and then using that against them.
Yeah, my gut says it's going to be closer to that. Like the Columbine kids were picked on; they were not the popular kids.
Sure.
They were bullied by jocks. They sought out jocks and people that had harmed them just to kill them, in particular, amongst other indiscriminate acts. But that's who they went after. And this could be the same thing with the kid. This could be a kid that could have been bullied a lot, and then these are the popular kids. These are much older kids. This is the problem: is that these kids are like 4, 5, 6, 7 years older than him. I'm going after him. But yeah, maybe he could be 13, 14. Maybe he's a freshman. Maybe these are seniors.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my thought, was like he was an underclassman and these were the older kids. But
yeah, I either
don't
see
know.
this video as one of two things. This is a sort of play on, like I said, Columbine, where kids just go off the deep end. And we're not saying video games cause violence, but we're saying that
no, not at all.
They're acting out their violent tendencies in video games, and this is a visual representation of that. Where this is inside this kid. This is either his fantasy or him doing it.
It's the escapism of video games, plainly put in a visual medium, essentially.
So yeah, it's a fascinating video. It's very dark. For some reason, he doesn't kill the hot dog kid at the end.
Nope, and he walks away eating a hot dog at the end.
And he looks satisfied.
Yeah, he does look satisfied.
Where are the parents in all this? That's
the question.
That was the question with the Columbine kids. The kids are like, well, we didn't know our kids had problems.
Yeah.
And that's what it usually comes down to. So I'm going to look for my knives cart or rocket cart and see how much there
See what
are.
happens when you
Is this a PAL territory? Is this PAL territory B? Is the Fjords? They're in Scandinavia?
Yeah.
Or shouldn't he be playing Mr. Gimmick instead of Rocket?